This is a Queen Bee Radio High School sports presentation.
Welcome to another edition of the Queen Bee Radio High School Sports Roundup. Got a jam-packed show with a lot happening across the high school sports scene in Southwest Wisconsin over the last week. The week 2 of the football season, cross-country season starting up, the first volleyball tournaments of the year, girls golf, boys soccer, a lot to get to, so let's not waste any time. I'm joined by Josh Wiederholt, Tom Nisus, and Wally Troughton. We're going to jump right into our football recap for week 2, a very interesting week 2 at that. Let's run down some of the scores from last week. The game of the week, Prairie du Chien taking down Darlington 21-19. They had to hang on to the very end to come away with that victory. We also saw Fenimore take down Richland Center 14-7. Lancaster took down Cuba City 18-7. Platteville 35, Mineral Point nothing. Columbus, one of the top teams in the state, took down River Valley 42-7. Broadhead Judah 27, Evansville 3. Dodgeville getting their first win of the season over Peck Argyle 33-22. New Glarus Monticello shutting out Belleville 7-0. Kind of a surprising score for the SWAL team from Belleville. Dodgeland took down Parkview Albany 22-7. Westby all over Benton Scales Mountain Schulzburg 68-22. The final there. River Ridge shutting out Seneca Wazeeka Steuben 19-0. Potosi Cassville 44, Ithaca 16. Southwestern East Dubuque going 2-0, knocking out Boscobel 40-13. Blackhawk Warren getting off to a hot start 42-6 over Highland. Waterloo over Riverdale 48-12. Royal took down Hillsboro 34-12. New Lisbon over Iowa Grant 22-12. And Oneida Nation, a bit of an upset over Belmont in 8-player football in week 1, 20-12. Those are all the finals on our ShoeBox scoreboard. You'll see all those scores on the right-hand side of the screen for those watching on YouTube. And gentlemen, let's first start off with the game between Prairie du Chien and Darlington. Tom, we have Prairie du Chien at Lancaster coming up on Friday night. And for Prairie du Chien, getting off to a 2-0 start, they've had some pretty emotional wins already. The first 2 weeks of the season, a come from behind win against La Crosse Aquinas, and then having to hang on to the very end against the Redbirds. Seems like they're kind of back to what they were doing last year. It's been more of a ground and pound type of game, but Prairie du Chien off to a hot start, and they certainly have a lot to be excited about heading into week 3.
Yeah, when you win high-profile games like Aquinas and Darlington, to the victor goes the spoils. I mean, they are now ranked number 2 in Division 5, number 2. And they are fast becoming one of the most powerful teams here in the area. I don't really want to talk too much about the Lancaster Prairie game. I think that's our next segment. But, this is kind of the loss that Darlington has suffered late in the playoffs for the last couple of years. A tough, close game against a real good opponent. And it came down to, I believe, a 2-point conversion that I saw video of that the Prairie defense was able to stop. So Prairie du Chien off and running quickly here to start the season. They started 0-2 last year before conference play, and they went to Lancaster and won. Now they come into the game 2-0.
Yep, and Josh, you saw the first game that Darlington played against Platteville, and something that's kind of interesting about Darlington as far as common themes between weeks 1 and 2. Seems like Darlington doesn't get off to a hot start to begin the game, but they definitely are coming up strong in the second half of games. It seems like Coach Winkers is able to do his part to, make those adjustments, in game and at the half to get his team ready. But what do you think from what you saw in the first game and maybe what you know about the second game? What are some of the things that Darlington might look at doing to try and be more consistent and get back on a roll and back in the win column in week 3?
And you said it well. They did have issues on offense in both games. Especially week 1, some quarterback, running back issues, quarterback center issues, but their defense is phenomenal, and that will keep them in games all season long, and they'll eventually figure it out on the offensive side.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to the games that we had on Queen Bee Radio last week on Friday night. Cuba City against Lancaster. Lancaster coming away with the win. It was 18-7, the final score. Tom, you got to see that game firsthand. What were your takeaways from the Lancaster Cuba City game?
Well, it was a really good high school football game. Lancaster really controlled the game for the most part, but Cuba City hit them with a big running play, late in the game to take a 7-6 lead, and Lancaster came right back and scored a touchdown. I'm really impressed with Lancaster's defense. Now, they are only giving up 7 points per game, and they only gave up 100 yards if you take away the 52-yard touchdown run by I believe it was Loflaholtz, who ran for a touchdown for Cuba City. So they're certainly not doing it on offense yet. I think they have some good offensive pieces. I think they have a very capable quarterback. Alvarado is a tough as nails back. We talked to him after the game, and I just observed to Shark. I said, look at him. He runs, and then he kind of carries like 3 guys on his back for 2 or 3 extra yards. And I asked Peyton after the game, okay, how much do you squat? And he said, not very much, only 350 pounds. And I thought, holy cow, to be young again. But so far, Lancaster is doing it on the ground and doing it with good defense. I mean, they're only scoring 15 points a game. So and I think they're going to have to score more than that to beat Prairie. But an excellent defensive game for the balance of the night. And they were faced with a little bit of adversity when they got behind, and they responded like a good team does, and went ahead and took the lead against a young, but I think a talented, skilled Cuba City team.
Yeah, definitely. And then, Josh, you saw Mineral Point at Platteville, and boy, Platteville definitely turned things around from week 1 to week 2. Granted, a much different opponent, but you had mentioned, listening back to some of your games, TJ Pink, the quarterback for Platteville, when he had time against Darlington, he was pretty effective, and it seemed like in week 2 that was definitely the case for Platteville, as they were able to shut out a what we expected to be a pretty good Mineral Point team. What'd you see from the Hillman in week 2?
Yep, absolutely. And we kind of alluded to it last episode and a little bit this episode. The defenses are, at this point, generally ahead of the offenses until I saw Platteville Friday night. That was just phenomenal performance by them. You mentioned TJ Pink Jr. starting his 2nd game ever. I had him unofficially 21 of 27, 280 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
Just a phenomenal game. Rolling out, put him in motion, really spread the ball around too. I think he had 8 different receivers that he had passes to. And Mineral Point, they didn't have quite the numbers, and it was kind of a warm game. The defensive back started creeping up playing the short game, and then Pink would just throw an absolute beauty of a ball over the top for a long touchdown. Mineral Point's a solid team. They just ran into a buzzsaw. Platteville looked great. On defense, Platteville held Mineral Point under 100 yards. Zach McLean coming off the edge had him for 6 or 7 quarterback pressures. They just ran into an absolute buzzsaw in Platteville, and Platteville looked phenomenal.
This is something I kind of expected, though. I thought they had the ability there to start with. I thought they had the personnel. It was just a matter of getting everyone going in the right direction. Yep. And in the first game, they were just outgunned. And had they started the year playing somebody a little easier, should we say, by the end of the year, they might have been able to play with Darlington to a certain degree. But I think you hit the big thing. It's the fact that they did some things as far as some of their play calling based on what the defense was giving them. I give the coaches a lot of credit for that. There's an awful lot of coaches that just don't do that at the high school level.
Yeah, but Wally, the game that you and I had last Friday, Seneca Wazeeka Steuben at River Ridge. We kind of talked about this during, post game, and actually, let's go back to what we said about pregame, where both teams trying to find some offense. River Ridge had to have a late touchdown pass to beat Highland in week 1. Seneca Wazeeka Steuben looking for their first points of the season. After the game, Seneca Wazeeka Steuben still looking for their first points of the season, and River Ridge's scoring really came on 3 chunk plays. And watching that game, football's a beautiful game, but it's not always pretty, and it was not a pretty game by any stretch on Friday night. Both teams have a lot to look at. Granted, for River Ridge, they were without their fullback Andrew Nice, but there were a lot of penalties, a lot of pre-snap penalties at that, and really, River Ridge is 2-0, but they certainly look at this point like a pretty vulnerable 2-0 team, and with Belleville being 0-2, that could be some potential trouble for River Ridge heading into week 3.
I think so too. Just to mention the idea with Wazeeka Steuben Seneca. The Blue Golds have got a lot of problems. I'm not so certain they're going to get them solved this year. They have no offense, really, basically none. They haven't hit a 100-yard game yet. I mean, you should have had the 100-yard halves, and they can't get that in a game. They got some problems that they're going to have to work on. And their idea of shutting down River Ridge is put 11 guys in the box. Well, no wonder they finally decided to throw the ball, and when they threw the ball, they scored. And you can't do that. And that's one of the things I think River Ridge needs to do, is to give their guys a chance to be able to catch the ball, get a little more of the passing offense involved, because it's there for you. Balls were thrown nice, receivers caught the ball nice. So go ahead, put her up in the air.
This is it's news to me that Andrew Nice was out. That's a very big part of the River Ridge offense. That quarterback mesh where he either takes the ball or the quarterback runs with the football, that really sets up everything that they do. And if he was out, and I've not heard why he was out, but if he was out of that game, that makes a very big difference in their offensive approach, I would guess.
Yeah, we were told about 20 minutes before kickoff that it was an illness that he was out. And one of the other interesting things that we learned heading into the game too was that River Ridge did make the change at quarterback. Brandon Davis, the starting quarterback, and now Matthew Nice starting at the split end. And it worked out well for that connection from Davis to Nice. They had 2 touchdown connections in the first half of the game, so I think that it works there. But especially with that flex bone offense, if you have a player that's out and you have to have players moving in, where it really is about timing and precision and making sure that you're there. I mean, that leads to fumbles and turnovers and just being off schedule a bit. It seemed like River Ridge offensively was a bit disjointed. There were a couple shorter throws. I think River Ridge had a total of 4 combined turnovers in week 2, and they started off, in similar fashion against Highland, turning the ball over 3 of their first 4 possessions. So I think that, if River Ridge can stay, with the continuity and have the personnel at the places they need to be at, that offense is going to get going. But, perhaps this is just, part of the growing pains of, having, new guys at new positions, and, finding out that a player's not going to be playing in a game, very late heading into it. That probably changes the dynamic and probably changed the scheme that Wade Winkers wanted to run in that game.
I think you hit the main thing in there, is the fact that they're a little off kilter. Again, you're missing your starting fullback. They still did what they were going to do. They still ran the ball with the fullback. And as the game got on, he became more and more successful. Some of that's wearing down the defense, I know. But still, he became more and more successful, which shows that he's going to be very good at that position himself. But again, I think they should have done a little bit better. But as the season goes on, they will be. They'll be a lot better.
And let's move on and look at the 2-0 club. These are the teams in our area that are 2-0 after week 2. Looking at the SWC, Prairie du Chien, Lancaster, and Broadhead Judah. I don't think that there's really any surprises there, but of course, Prairie du Chien taking on Lancaster on Friday night. One of those teams will lose their first game of the season. In the SWAL, there is one team, and that is the Fenimore Golden Eagles, undefeated so far at 2-0, the only undefeated team in the SWAL. And the Six Rivers, how about this? Potosi-Cassville, Blackhawk Warren, River Ridge, Southwestern East Dubuque. And I'm sure, as you know, I kind of alluded to this earlier, that the Ridge and Valley, they are combined 0-14, and some of those wins for the Six Rivers are at the expense of the Ridge and Valley teams. But looking at this list, there's a couple teams on here that raise some eyebrows, and Josh, there's one in particular that I know you and I have talked about. That Southwestern East Dubuque team, not only have they won 2 games, but they've looked pretty darn impressive from what we've learned so far.
Absolutely. And there's something to be said about your opponent, but Al Davis, just win, baby. I mean, and they did win handily, and you are going to compete in football games when you have size up front and play physical and have a running back in Brady Huseman that can break one for a long gain. That's just the facts of the game. That keeps you in games. My other team that I just win, baby. Let's go Fenimore Golden Eagles.
You talk about a team with that, their backs against the wall emotionally to start the season. And all of a sudden now they're walking down the hall, standing pretty tall at school as that's coming up here, and say, well, look where we are. They've earned it. Why not?
I tell you, the 2-0 club team that I'm kind of surprised by, and I didn't mean to diss them in our first show, but Blackhawk Warren. They lost 3 1,000-yard kids from last year, and that was a pretty impressive win against Highland, who really had River Ridge on the ropes until the final few seconds, and Blackhawk Warren obliterated them. So, hats off to them for replacing kids that I thought, at least for this year, would be irreplaceable.
I think the thing about Blackhawk Warren you think about is, first of all, number one, they're very well coached and have been all along. And they had some nice big wins last year. And I mean, big wins as in really sticking it to some people, which meant they got a lot of other kids in the ball game playing. And so they've had experience, even though they may not have been starters. And that makes a big difference right there. You've had kids that have played the game and had to go out and be physical against some other teams. Sometimes they're starting lineup. So to a degree, I'm not completely surprised.
Yeah, some very interesting teams in that 2-0 club, and I'm sure, well, we know at least one of them will not be in that undefeated club heading into week 3, but we'll talk about some of the games that we have coming up this week. And boy, those SWAL Six Rivers crossover games this weekend, my goodness, that is going to be a stacked set of games. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. We'll have more on the High School Sports Roundup after this on YouTube and SoundCloud.
Grow your business by enhancing your digital marketing efforts with Queen Bee Radio and Phase 3 Digital. We provide customized solutions based on your business's unique needs, including targeted advertising, website development, and search engine optimization. Contact us at 608-349-2000 or visit p3da.com/Platteville to learn more.
Let's check in on the ShoeBox Scoreboard presented by the ShoeBox in Black Earth, the largest independent shoe store in the Midwest. In high school volleyball last week, 4 of our local teams competed in the 25-team Great River Sprawl Volleyball Tournament in Onalaska. Both Cuba City and Mineral Point won 5 of the 7 matches they competed in. Basketball finished with a 4-4 record, and Iowa Grant did not win any of the 6 matches they competed in. Last Saturday at the Monticello Invitational, Schellsburg had a strong showing and finished with a 4-1 record in the tournament. River Ridge and Argyle finished the tournament with a 2-3 record, and both Blackhawk and Highland finished 0-2. Last Friday, Darlington hosted a girls golf mini-meet where the Flying Arrows won the meet with a team score of 181, 8 strokes ahead of the Southwestern Cuba City Benton Triop. Brianna Kirsch continued her dominance on the course, finishing in first place with a score of 38, winning by 5 strokes. In cross country, the Fenimore boys cross country team finished in first place at the Iowa Grand Invitational on Saturday. Isaac Henkel, Carter Bunn, and Riley Fouriette all had top 5 finishes for the Golden Eagles. Iowa Grant's Brett Connolly finished first overall with a time of 17 minutes and 53 seconds. In the girls' meet, Tri-State Homeschool finished in first place with 37 points, as Rua Franzman Simmert finished first overall for the team with a time of 20 minutes and 32 seconds. Kate Bronchinsky also finished in the top 5 with a third place time of 22:59. At the Gail Johnson Kickoff in Onalaska, Dodge Point finished 4th, Boscobel 5th, and River Valley 12th in the boys' 5,000 meter race. Lane Arrett was the top local finisher with a time of 16:44, just missing the top 5 by 1 spot. In the girls' race, Dodge Point won the meet with 37 points, as Ellie Robinson and Annie Robinson finished in the top 2 spots with times of 18:59 and 19:09 respectively. Dodgeville finished in third place with 116 points, as Nora Gilson and Aaliyah Kleesner had top 5 finishes for the Bulldogs. At the Wazeeka Steuben Invite on Tuesday, Boscobel won both the boys and girls races. The boys finished with 34 team points, and the Bulldogs' Gabe Davis won the race with a time of 19:49. The girls finished first with 27 team points. Nora Gilson was the overall race winner with a time of 22:28. In boys soccer, Dodge Point split matches on back-to-back days, beating Wisconsin Heights 4-1 on Monday night, thanks in large part to the hat trick from junior John McGraw. Dodge Point then lost on the road to Evansville 3-0 on Tuesday night, despite a career night of 20 saves for goalie Jake Shekel. Those are the scores on our ShoeBox scoreboard presented by the ShoeBox in Black Earth, the largest independent shoe store in the Midwest. This one-on-one with the Great One interview is presented by People's State Bank.
Looking for a checking account with no monthly requirements or service charge? People's State Bank's People's Checking Account is just what you're looking for. This account includes free debit card, online and mobile banking, bill pay, and much more at no cost to you. You heard that right. No cost to you. We're your local community bank ready to serve you. People's State Bank. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to the Queen Bee Radio High School Sports Roundup. It's now time to go one-on-one with the Great One presented by People's State Bank, and we're very excited to have our first student athlete for this weekly segment. She's a 3-time girls golf state tournament qualifier, also a medalist, and has competed in 7 tournaments already this season, winning 5 of them individually. Our guest is Brianna Kirsch of the Lancaster Flying Arrows golf team. Brianna, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing very well, thank you. It's kind of hard to believe, but the golf season actually about halfway done, at this point, and regionals will be coming up about a month from now. But you and your teammates have had quite the season already so far. How much fun has this season been for you and your teammates?
It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of travel fun. We had like an issue at one of our meets. We got a flat tire in the school suburban, which has been I was ecstatic pulling in. But yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, you and your teammates are trying to qualified for state last year. Is that kind of the catalyst for this year's team to try and reach the state tournament again?
Yep, absolutely. It's the last year, so I'm going to go all the way, hopefully.
All right, now let's talk about where your interest in golf came from. When did you first start swinging a golf club, and what is it about the game of golf that's kept you interested and motivated you to compete at the level that you are?
I started when I was like 3 years old. Like my dad would just take us out on the course, me and my brother. There's like little pictures of us swinging. It's so cute. But ever since like my dad, he played golf and everything. So he got my brother into it. And then it just kind of went all the way down. And like when he met my mom, she started playing golf. So it's just kind of in the family. And like me and Noah would just always go out and golf by ourselves. And same with the family. We'd all 4 go out. So, and then once like Noah committed to IUPUI, and I went down, toured the campus and everything, I saw what he's all doing down there. It's like, I want to do that. And like, I didn't really take it serious till I was about like 10 years old. But been good ever since. My brother's really motivated me. It's just me and him. We've been going at it for a while now.
Yeah, that actually leads into my next question. Your brother Noah is a very accomplished golfer in his own right. He was also a medalist at the state tournament in 2022. In what ways has he helped you become a better golfer?
Well, we've always practiced together. We go to the range together. He's really pushed me, like when I don't want to go golf, and he's like, we gotta go and everything. We always go out, play every single day. And now that he's like away at college, it's like now it's just me. But yeah, it's been really fun. And when he comes back from college in the summers and everything, and like we grew up, we went to go like every tournament together. Like we always pro together. We always warmed up together in like Milwaukee at all our tournaments. So it's been kind of fun. Compete and see who does better at them. But yeah.
I know that you've played on a number of golf courses, locally, primarily in Wisconsin. I know you've golfed, a couple other courses across the country, but what are some of your favorite golf courses to play on?
Definitely Whistling Straits in Sand Valley. I did a fundraiser at Whistling Straits, the Wisconsin Cup, which I have on right now, for the MAC Fund. It's for cancer. And I was one of the top 3 fundraisers, which was cool. Played that in Sand Valley. And then UW Ridge, which was awesome play for state. Good courses.
Awesome. And then, what other courses do you hope to play on in the future?
Definitely Pebble Beach. That's definitely a top one. And then Trump Doral, again, that was a good one.
Besides golf, what are some of the other things that you're interested in? I know that you compete in track and field. What are some of the other things that you have interest-wise outside of golf?
I did basketball, like middle school, high school, but I just quit last year. But then I went out for track instead last year, which was really fun. Didn't realize I could be a long distance runner, but I did it. So that was fun. I'll probably go again this year. And I really like to cook too. I like to cook at the house with my family and everything. We always like grill out, have little parties for 4th of July. That's always a big hit, but yeah.
All right. Before heading into a golf tournament, do you have any, pre-tournament rituals or superstitions or anything like that? Anything that you do to get yourself hyped up?
Not really. I don't like everyone on the range. They always listen to music in their AirPods. I've never done that. I kind of just talk with the girls. It's really fun, but I don't think so. My mom usually makes me like a sandwich and a banana. Like I always have a peanut butter sandwich and a banana. That's always what I eat during my rounds. But yeah, that's about it.
And every golfer that I know, they have that one shot that they love to brag about. Do you have one particular shot or anything like that that kind of sticks in your brain and one that you like to brag to people about the most?
Yeah. Well, recently we played Prairie du Chien at a match, like just 9 holes, and on hole 2 I dunked it. I got an eagle from 63 yards. So
wow.
Yeah, we had like a big cheer, like my whole family was there and everything. Like I was talking with the girls after the round. They're like, yeah, I heard the big cheer from hole 2. I wondered what happened. And, like all the girls were saying how they heard it. So that was fun, memorable for my last year.
I can barely hit a golf ball straight 60 yards probably. So that's that's a heck of a shot. And then, this is your senior year. You kind of talked about it earlier that, this group trying to, go to state again. Do you have any aspirations after graduation? Do you hope to stick with golf? Do you kind of have, golf teams or golf programs kind of in mind as ones that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, I really want to go Division I, which is my goal. I've been working. I've done lots of stuff since freshman year. I've been recruiting and everything, a lot of college visits and everything. But I mainly narrowed it down to 2 schools, and I committed to USI, University of Southern Indiana, to play Division I golf.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's a really cool accomplishment, getting able to play D1 golf. Congratulations on that. And then, of course, a few more tournaments coming up before regionals begin. Are there things that you and maybe your teammates, like, are there things that you are kind of working on or focusing on to make yourselves better as you head towards regionals and towards that postseason run?
Yeah, we've really targeted down our short game and everything at our practices. We just work 100, 150 in, how to get out of trees, how to go over trees and everything. So we've been really pushing getting close from 100 yards and get that 2 putt. But yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us on our show today. We appreciate you taking the time for the interview. Best of luck to you the rest of the way. We're looking forward to following your journey for the rest of the season.
See ya.
All right. Thank you, Brianna. That was Brianna Kirsch of the Lancaster Flying Arrows girls golf team. We'll have more on the High School Sports Roundup after this on YouTube and SoundCloud.
Check out Subs.com. Subs is Southwest Wisconsin's go-to supplement store. Find all your favorite supplement brands at the best prices from local people. Fuel your fitness journey. Subs.com, your go-to supplement store with locations in Fenimore and Dubuque.
This week's highlight reel is presented by Subs.com. It is 3rd and 8, quick pass over to the far side. It is dropped, and they're going to say it's a backwards lateral, and that is a turnover as Seneca Wazeeka-Steuben recovers it. And that turnover is brought to you by Lancaster Dental Associates and Fenimore Smiles. 9:10 to go in the second quarter, no score. Two backs in the backfield again as Opright gives inside. I believe this is Syme carrying the ball, and he's taking a bunch of Timberwolves with him, and he gets down at the 40-yard line, but a fumble. And the officials are trying to see who has the football, and they're going to say River Ridge has it. 3rd and 8 with 5:45 to go in the second quarter. Two receivers to the right, one to the left. Davis takes a snap for River Ridge, drops back, looking near side, finding Nice again. Nice gets it in the end zone for Northland Buildings touchdown, 6-0 River Ridge. Brought to you on that connection from Brandon Davis to Matthew Nice. Three receivers right, one to the left. Davis under center, takes a snap on 2nd and 15, minute 50 to go. Davis firing a ball downfield, Nice one-on-one coverage downfield, hauls it in at the 10, and drags a defender with him into the end zone for a River Ridge touchdown. Three receivers to the right, one to the left on 3rd and 19 for the River Ridge Timberwolves at their own 19-yard line. Davis fires a pass near side, and that is intercepted. Or are they going to say incomplete? Yes. They're going to say that's an interception at the 39-yard line.
And maybe you could get a chance to score. But if not, it puts a lot of pressure on them to try to score.
One receiver to each side of the formation. Davis going to keep the ball. He gets past the line of scrimmage, and he is going to break free to the 40, to the 30, 20, 10, touchdown, River Ridge. Brandon Davis on the quarterback keeper finds the end zone for Northland Buildings touchdown. River Ridge adds to their lead, 19-0 with 2:46 to go in the third quarter. 9:33 to go. Davis takes a snap and a fade throw to the corner of the end zone, and they're going to say it's an interception by the Blue Golds.
Grow your business by enhancing your digital marketing efforts with Queen Bee Radio and Phase 3 Digital. We provide customized solutions based on your business's unique needs, including targeted advertising, website development, and search engine optimization. Contact us at 608-349-2000 or visit p3da.com/Platteville to learn more.
Viewing week 3, Tom, Josh, and Wally back with me to talk about the games that we have coming up. And Tom, you and I get to pull double duty this week. We have Iowa Grant at Boscobel kicking off our coverage this week on Thursday night, the opener in the Ridge and Valley. And like we talked about earlier, the Ridge and Valley, all the teams looking for their first win of the season, and one of these teams for at least one day is going to have a share of first place in the Ridge and Valley. What do you know about the Panthers and the Bulldogs as we head into our matchup on Thursday night?
Well, I think it's going to be a battle between the two quarterbacks, Clyde Steffi from Iowa Grant and Lucas Whitaker from Boscobel. Both of them obviously lead in passing yards. They also are both the rushing leaders of their team. I saw Whitaker play against Southwestern East Dubuque last year, and I was really impressed by him. He took a beating. I mean, a beating. But he stood tall and he played to the very end. Obviously, he must be probably the leader of that team, and he's had success this year. The last 5 games, though, Iowa Grant is 5-0, and the point differential is 42.8 points for Iowa Grant, only 8 points for Boscobel. So it's been really one-sided. And last week, Boscobel against Southwestern East Dubuque gave up 297 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. So they're going to have to find a way to stop the run game. And then Iowa Grant had a tough one last week. They led New Lisbon 12-8 into the 4th quarter, but they ended up losing that late. So they seem to be the better team, but the game will be played at Boscobel. And I believe our friend from Boscobel, who sends us a lot of information, has said it's been since 1995 that Boscobel has beaten Iowa Grant. So, it's always tough when you're low in numbers and you're trying to climb the ladder. And, we'll have to see what happens. But 2 good quarterbacks on display Thursday night.
Now, we have to understand Boscobel is going after this, with one arm tied behind its back. One of the coaches won't be there. Jimmy Kuska is going to be off with me up in at Lakeland University. So they do have their hand tied behind their back. But Boscobel is one of the more improved teams actually in the Ridge and Valley. I can see that by just the fact they're scoring touchdowns, where they weren't doing that before. They didn't have any offense. Their defense still needs to climb, but they do have, their numbers have improved. They got a long ways to go, but improvement. And you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk with Boscobel coach Shafari earlier today for our pregame interview, and he's really embracing, the opportunity with Boscobel. Boscobel is the only team in the state that hasn't reached the postseason, but having spent 7 seasons with Fenimore, the last 4 as the offensive coordinator, and now taking on the lead role, and as Tom mentioned, Whitaker, he's a 4-year starter, at quarterback. And, as you said, that experience definitely helps. Granted, he's probably had to take a few more ice baths than he probably would have liked over the last couple of years. But yeah, he's, definitely embracing that experience. And it seems like, if, we've kind of talked about this over the last couple of weeks on the show too, if you keep the coaching, stable and have, a consistent program, and it sounds like, in Boscobel, middle school, I think right now they're around 22 players on their roster right now, but there's 35 coming up. So there's, definitely numbers, lower down that, should hopefully help Boscobel continue to improve in the Ridge and Valley and get some more wins in the win column. It should be a very interesting matchup. And like you said, Tom, too, a lot of the players for Iowa Grant, some all-conference players coming back, especially at the skill positions, that makes them for a potentially explosive attack on any given game as well. So looking forward to that game on Thursday night. And then we move into our games on Friday. Lancaster at Prairie du Chien, arguably the game of the week in Southwest Wisconsin, especially between the SWC teams, although I'm sure that there are some Six Rivers and Swall crossover games that we'll get to in a little bit that definitely have a lot to say about that. But Tom, we'll have the call of that one. And, Lancaster Prairie du Chien, one of the longest rivalries in the state. I believe this is the 87th time that these two are going head to head. You've had a front row seat to some of the more recent matchups. And just kind of, looking at this at the macro level, this game could either be a track meet, it could be a rock fight, it could be both. At given points of the game. What do you make of the matchup heading into Friday night?
Well, I think it will be both. I think both teams want to run the football. I went back, and in the last 5 games, Lancaster has won 3 of them. Obviously, Prairie du Chien 2. But in 4 of the 5, and it might have been 5 of the 5, but one year Lancaster did not turn in their stats, so I couldn't verify it. The team that won was the team that ran the football for the most yards. The only game that I wasn't sure was a couple of years ago, a kid by the name of Braden Saint from Prairie du Chien carried the ball 51 times, 51 times.
Wow.
For 253 yards, and they lost. Nothi kid for Lancaster returned a kickoff for a touchdown. I mean, there were big plays all over the place. It was a great high school football game, but I think both teams will be stubborn about running the football. But yet, you know, I still think that quarterback position is the most important position on the field. Now, Abe Amundsen for Prairie does not throw very much. He runs the offense. I think Nolan Wolf could be a key. If Lancaster can kind of loosen up that Prairie defense, I think that would help them because they do have some weapons they can use. If that doesn't work, then it becomes a rock fight. And you run Peyton Alvarado into that line and you go three yards in a cloud of dust. I think it should be a great football game.
You talk about the idea of being a rock fight. And I remember an interview we had with the officials after the officials did 2 games in one night, and their first game was Lancaster Prairie du Chien, and they talked about how physical it was. They talked about the fact that they were warning coaches, they were warning players about you can't be doing this, you need to be doing that, and on and on and on. And how much different it was when they came to the Platteville-Dodgeville game, where Platteville and Dodgeville are helping each other up. They're patting each other on the back. They're shaking hands in the middle of the game. I mean, they're doing all this kind of stuff. They said, what is this? Did we drop into the Twilight Zone? I mean, that's how they looked at it. And that's the way it is when Prairie du Chien and Lancaster play, period.
Yeah, definitely. The other game that we have involving SWC teams over on Extreme 107.1 Friday night, Platteville at Dodgeville, and while Platteville's had the advantage over Dodgeville seemingly over the last 10 years, they've met a number of times during that stretch. Tom and I had Dodgeville against Viroqua. Viroqua kind of ran all over them in that first matchup, but then Dodgeville got on the right foot last week. Dodgeville at home hosting Platteville. Some of the things that you're kind of looking for in this matchup.
This is an interesting game in a lot of ways. Dodgeville has not had a lot of success playing Platteville, for a long time. And in fact, I think the last time that Dodgeville beat them, it was a time when Platteville and Dodgeville played each other 3 times in the same year. And Platteville won 2 of them. And they won the most important one, and that was the playoff game. This is a game it's years ago, it used to be extremely physical and just borderline on almost naughty plays. That's not the way it has been the last number of years. The last number of years, it hasn't been that way at all. It's kind of like how I was describing the game last year with Platteville and Dodgeville, helping each other out, patting each other on the back, shaking hands in the middle of the game, and doing all this kind of stuff is the way it's turned out to be. But Platteville physically and on the scoreboard have dominated. And I expect more of the same. While Platteville started off with a tough game to start with, then it's turning out to be they have 2 games that are a little more of building confidence, because that's what this should be for Platteville. It should be. And then it's a matter from there of how the rest of the season can go based on that.
You guys are going to love seeing the TJ Pink show in person. It's awesome.
Well, we always said, at least I always said, that the quarterback position is the most important position on the football field. And Platteville has found their quarterback. That is a huge thing, because I think the quarterback can make everybody on offense better.
They have a good running back. They have excellent receivers. In fact, I admonish them a little while and say, you got a guy here that's, what is it, 6'6", and you're not dragging him across behind the linebackers where he's there all alone and can out jump anyone, it's because they haven't needed to do that.
Yep, and then the other game that we have on Super Hits 106 Friday night, Cuba City at Peck Argyle. Josh, you'll have that one. Cuba City trying to get back on the right track after falling to Lancaster last week. They looked pretty darn impressive against Benton Scales Mountain Shullsburg. Seems like I don't want to say a get right game, just, given it's, Peck Argyle hasn't had a lot of success over recent years, but Cuba City, obviously a ton of kids on their roster, very talented with these, players that were underclassmen last year now, playing in those upperclassmen roles. Should be a good game for the Cubans coming up Friday night.
Yep. Yeah. And I even had in my notes that, Cuba City is going to look to come out and fix a couple of things, kind of a get right game, get some momentum going. The 18-7 loss to Lancaster, the score wasn't super indicative of the outcome. Cuba City was in the game, but they also threw the ball 25 times against Lancaster. I don't expect that to be the case against Peck Argyle. They want to kind of set up their season, get their run game going, and they'll look to really take it to Peck Argyle. It's unfortunate for Peck Argyle that they run into Cuba City after a loss, and the coaches and the whole town super confident, and they'll look to right the ship.
And I think you got one thing there. Guy Cop would rather not throw the ball. He'd rather run the ball. And if they have the opportunity to run the ball successfully, the game will be over quick, and there'll be a dominant affair.
Yeah, I would anticipate Cale Denar going to get his workload quite a bit. He had 4 touchdowns in the first matchup of the year against Benton Scales Mountain Shullsburg. I expect his workload to be pretty up there in week 3. Now let's look at some of the other games in the area, and as we've been alluding to, the Six Rivers Swallow crossover games. Already talked about Cuba City at Peck Argyle. One of the other ones that or at least I kind of anticipate is going to go in favor of Blackhawk Warren as they take on Parkview Albany. I anticipate that's, going to be a one-sided affair. These other matchups, though, Darlington at Potosi Cassville. You have Belleville at River Ridge, Mineral Point at Southwestern East Dubuque, Fenimore at Benton Scales Mountain Shullsburg. I think those 4, I would probably favor Fenimore against Benton Scales Mountain Shullsburg a little bit, just with the way that Benton Scales Mountain Shullsburg's played. But those other 3, depending on, how the defenses have looked so far, these games feel like they're coin flips, and they are just going to be, must-see games. I wish we had more radio sticks that we could broadcast these games and kind of spread out our coverage a little bit more. But my goodness, the Darlington at Potosi Castle, Belleville at River Ridge, Mineral Point at Southwestern East Dubuque, all very intriguing games for a number of different reasons. I'll kind of lean into the Mineral Point at Southwestern East Dubuque game just a little bit. And Josh, you've seen Mineral Point. With Southwestern East Dubuque being as hot as they are, and as Mineral Point, having only scored 1 touchdown this season. I think they scored the only touchdown against Lancaster before being shut out last week against Platteville. This is not a game where Mineral Point wants to fall to 0-3, because it feels like that this is definitely a must-win for them to gain some momentum as they start getting into more of the SWAL specific games coming up.
Absolutely. And in their game Friday against Platteville, they didn't throw the ball until the second quarter, which kind of surprised me coming from Mineral Point. Mm-hmm. And they're somewhat low on numbers, and you kind of got the vibe that they might not have it as much up front as they have in past years. And that could mean trouble against a very physical Southwestern East Dubuque team. Should be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, Mineral Point has to come at this game with some attitude. They have to. If they want to have a shot at winning the game, they have to play this game with attitude. If they don't, it's going to be number 3 for them.
Yep, another interesting Yeah, another interesting game, Belleville at River Ridge, where Belleville has only scored one touchdown. They were shut out last week. I believe it was against New Glarus Monticello. And, like we said last week, River Ridge, they did beat Seneca Wazeeka Steuben 19-0, but it was really three big plays that led to the three scores for River Ridge. This one feels like it's going to be, kind of a defensive rock fight type of game. I haven't seen, well, I do know that Belleville's, skill players, a lot of them graduated from last year's team, so I'm sure that's impacting the lack of offensive production. But yeah, this feels like it's going to be much more of a defensive type of game based on what you and I saw last week, Wally.
I think it will be as well. I don't think that's exactly what Bellevue would like. I think they'd like to see themselves putting some points on the board, but I don't think that's going to be the case. We haven't seen the best of Ridge yet, by any means at all. So this game could become very interesting. I still think that Belleville is the team to beat is one of the teams to beat here, and it'll be tough for Ridge, but I think they can knock them off.
And then Darlington at Potosi Cassville. You want to talk about a defensive or oriented type of game? My gosh, I feel like that game is going to be a hard-hitting game across the board. And I think one of the interesting things is that, Potosi Cassville having gone against one Winkers brother consistently over the last couple of years, it feels like that they may have, kind of a slight advantage as far as, what they might see, from the Redbirds, and the game is being played in Potosi, which is always a great environment on any Friday nights. Any thoughts on what you guys would be looking for in that matchup on Friday?
Well, I just have seen Potosi go roughshod over their first two opponents. They haven't been really tested yet. They're going to get tested Friday night, and I think they have a good team, and I think a good team needs to be tested. And you hope, though, that you come out of it healthy. I could see this game, like the Prairie Lancaster game, being a very, very physical affair, and you hope that both teams come out of it without any major injuries. But it should be a great high school football game. And, if Darlington could have scored 3 points more in their game against Prairie, the Darlington Potosi game probably would have been the game of Southwest Wisconsin. As it is, it's a 1-1 team against a 2-0 team.
I look at this game, and the players that are on the field on both teams are good players, and they're going to play well, and that's going to make the game exciting. What I wish I could do is I wish I could have a view of inside the coaches' heads during the game as they're trying to make adjustments, trying to make changes, trying to do this. What do I do here? Oh, they're doing this now. I guess I better. I would love to have some sort of a picture of what's going through their minds, because you're looking at two coaches that are good coaches, that think through things. And that's almost as exciting as watching the game itself.
Wally, I think what we need is like the 1969 Super Bowl when Hank Stram was mic'd up. We could maybe hear one of the coaches saying, "Let's keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys." Or maybe it would be something different, but maybe that's an idea, is to mic up the coaches for one of these games. As a former coach, I know sometimes it gets a little hot and heavy as the game goes on.
You think? Oh,
I would love to have a microphone on the field in that game, because it's going to be physical too.
Mm-hmm. You
might be able to hear them in Rockville. I mean, it's going to be that type of game, and yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, just the chess match between Coach Siegert and Coach Winkers. That is just, that in itself is going to be an intriguing thing. But both of these programs consistently good for so long, especially over the last decade or so. That is definitely a must see matchup on Friday night. Other games in the area, the Ridge and Valley, one game that's kind of interesting. Highland at Seneca Wazeeka Steuben. Again, the last two conference champions in the Ridge and Valley going head to head. Seneca was Zika Steuben winning the matchup head to head last year, but again, it feels like the Ridge and Valley. It's which team gets it together the earliest and which team is gonna be consistent. Heading down the season the rest of the way. I think Ithaca is probably still the favorite in the conference, but I mean, these are two teams that have had some success in recent years, and these two going head to head, a huge matchup in how this conference shakes out.
Well, I have no doubt that Ithaca is still the team to beat. Look who they've lost to.
Right,
They're
exactly.
0-2, but they lost to Cashton, who's number 1 in D7, and to Potosi, who's number 7, who could maybe be even higher. I mean, there's quality losses, and then there's quality losses. I think Ithaca is more than prepared for the Ridge and Valley Conference season. They are my pick to win that conference, and if they stay healthy, I think they'll be a difficult team to beat in Division 7 by the end of the year.
I don't see anyone else in the conference coming up, and that is one of the other things that you just have to make a point of. Somebody in the conference is going to win a game this week, finally, and they haven't had much success doing that up this so far this year, but it will happen because they start playing each other. But I do agree with you with Ithaca. I think they are the team to beat, and I don't see another team in that conference challenging them. And who knows? Boscoville might get another win this year, maybe 2.
Well, Ithaca does play at Riverdale this week too, and I know Steve Prestegard mentioned in the preview show with the number of players that Riverdale has coming back. There's something to be said about experience and players coming back. I'm not saying that Riverdale is going to be a team to beat Ithaca, but I do think that it might not be as easy of a game as Ithaca might expect heading into that one. So that's another intriguing matchup. The other game, Hillsborough at Necedah, where again there's going to be 3 teams tied for first place at the end of this week, and yeah, like we said, Iowa Grant at Boscoville, one of those teams is going to win. Highland or Seneca with Zika Steuben is going to win, and Ithaca or Riverdale is going to win. So yeah, it's which team can get it together, and which teams can start getting that momentum as we head into conference play. Before we wrap up, with all the stuff that we've covered, that we've previewed, what's the one thing that you guys are looking for in this week 3? Is there any particular storylines or anything like that you guys kind of have your eye on for all of our teams across Southwest Wisconsin?
Well, I love the battle for first place between Prairie and Lancaster, and I'm interested in those crossover games. But my message to the high school athletes out there, hey, cherish these memories of big games. It's why you lift weights all year. Go out and have fun. And I would say I'm hoping the kids drink a lot of water. It's good to get warm again this weekend. And, stay healthy, but enjoy. This is the best time of your life.
I agree with what you just said there. This is a chance to go and have fun and enjoy yourself playing this game. It's a short time. And let's face it, the vast majority of these players, they'll finish their senior year, and that's it. They won't have the other opportunity to move ahead. I mean, fortunately, I get to see kids that get to move ahead tomorrow night as I go up to Lakeland University where UW-Platteville is going on. And I do have to put a plug in for Josh Blazek. He's on the list for the Shrine game. He's on the list for the Senior Bowl game. Hopefully he can get named to one of them. And he is on all kinds of All-America teams. And then he's a nice guy. Go figure it out. Hey, good luck to him. Hope he has a great game. And good luck to the Pioneers.
Just an absolutely great weekend to watch football and not calories. Holiday weekend. I'm going to have some burgers.
Hey.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities to see good football in Southwest Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the stocks on potato chips are going to go up drastically this weekend across the board. Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, college football coming back this weekend too. The Badgers, we'll see Coach Fickle's New-Look Badgers in action this weekend, and the Packers have a bye week until the regular season begins. We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, a very fun week 3 in high school football across the board. Looking forward to recapping those next week on the High School Sports Roundup. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week for another edition of the High School Sports Roundup on YouTube and SoundCloud.